Hi, I'm Dr. Whitcomb, and today I'd like to talk about what it's like to suffer with fibromyalgia. I know it's a really touchy subject, and so many people have had difficulties with being accepted as a fibromyalgia patient, sometimes with doctors and family and friends, and sometimes even with yourself. You can even doubt yourself if you're really as sick as you think you are. So I'd like to clear that up. If you've got family members or spouses who'd like to understand you better, you're welcome to play this video later or to go ahead and get them now because this is a live presentation. I am a chiropractor. I practiced chiropractic for 32 years. Recently, I was accepted as a holistic practitioner. I'm very proud of the upgrade, and so I'm practicing presently as a holistic practitioner and would love to answer any questions about that. Let's take a look at what it's like to suffer as a fibromyalgia patient. A fibromyalgia patient typically will have nervousness, irritability, depression, fatigue, insomnia, sometimes restless leg syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome. Um, their hormones are off. They're in parasympathetic mode and suffering all the time with that. And we'll explain a little bit more about what and why, but let's take a look at their life. So it's time to go to bed. Your fibromyalgia patient is exhausted. They've been exhausted all day long. They go to bed, and unless they're taking some type of strong medication to help them sleep, Ambien or something else, they lie in bed all night long. They lie there and can't sleep. I had fibromyalgia myself. I can remember rolling over and taking a look at the clock, and it'd be 4:30 in the morning. I'm still awake, so tired I can't even believe that anybody could be that tired. So finally, I fall asleep. I wake back up and I go, "Wow, I must have slept 2 hours." I look at the clock, and it's 4:35. I slept 5 minutes, and maybe you get to sleep and sleep an hour or two. You're wide awake again. Why is that? With fibromyalgia, there is now this is all my work, all my belief. Some people may see it differently. I believe it's true because I've got tests that I can use to remove the symptoms temporarily, and the symptoms disappear in most people. It's, it's, I've said thousands of people are well now. I believe I found what's causing it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. So here's what happens. You pull on enough nerves at one time because the meninges have been displaced by upper neck problems, and all of the nerves fire at one time. When that happens, or the more it pulls, the more nerves is fired. It usually starts with the neck and shoulders, works its way down. But as it pulls on more and more nerves, it puts you more and more into sympathetic mode. Parasympathetic is what happens when you're sleeping, when you're eating food, when you're making love, when you're relaxing. That's parasympathetic. Sympathetic is when you're afraid, you're running for your life, you're fighting with your spouse or something. You get all worked up and you're irritated, and all of the things that take place in parasympathetic mode turn off. Your digestion turns off, your relaxation turns off, your calm mind turns off, you feel anxiety, you don't feel like having sex typically because that's turned off also, and you are cranked up. But you don't look cranked up because you're so tired from being so exhausted, not sleeping, that you are suffering severely with this anxiety and fatigue at the same time. And that's why you don't sleep. And that's why your food doesn't digest properly. And that's why you're not as aggressive as wanting to have sex. Very often, this is the way it works. Once in a while, it's different, but not very often. And in addition to that, the anxiety is so horrible that most of my patients are taking Xanax or some type of benzodiazepine or some equivalent that will keep them more relaxed so they can sleep better and maybe get rid of some of the anxiety. As a chiropractor, typically chiropractors are not real big on medicine. We're big on emergency medicine, we think it's great, but most medications, other than like insulin and high blood pressure and some of those things that are just really necessary, we're not big on. But in this case, if you've got fibromyalgia, you're going to be taking something to calm down. You're going to be taking something to sleep. And now you pull on enough of those nerves and you have pain everywhere the nerves are being pulled on. Usually it starts, like I said, in the neck and shoulders. It works its way down into the low back and the hips and the legs if it gets bad enough. If it's in your hips already, typically the other symptoms plus that pain is so bad that you're not working anymore, you're disabled. So if you're disabled, you're spending your time at home, exhausted, worn out. And by this time, you're in so much pain, you're taking something. Most of my patients are taking something like morphine, Dilaudid, methadone, fentanyl, a lot of different heavy medications that will help them with the pain. I'm not against this. I think without this, they would commit suicide. I had 3 patients who scheduled for appointments and killed themselves before they got into my office. Our office was devastated. The people that talked to them on the phone were devastated. It's a horrible thing. And these are people that probably would have gotten well. And coming from our standpoint, seeing so many people get well, the people in wheelchairs getting out and walking, the people who are, just devastated with pain, having convulsions, passing out, getting well, people who are bedridden, up and walking 3 or 4 miles a day. It's so frustrating for us to see somebody who could get well, who doesn't get well. Now, let's take it another step further. So now you got this person who wakes up in the morning after really not sleeping. They're exhausted. Even if you took sleeping medications, you didn't really get into REM sleep, and so you're exhausted anyway. You have a hard time getting up. Most of my fibromyalgia patients are not up at 5 in the morning taking a walk. They're sleeping in, having a horrible time getting up. And when they do get up, they're tired. They're grumpy. Your friends call up and want to come over and do something. You go, well, you're welcome to come over, but I don't feel like going anywhere. When they get there within a short period of time, you don't feel well, and you ask them to leave. They don't come over too many times to someone with that type of reception before they quit coming over, and all of a sudden you're living alone. Oftentimes spouses won't understand and will give you a hard time, and that just makes you feel worse. And many of my patients have been to doctors complaining of the pain, and the doctors say, we don't accept drug patients here. We don't hand out drugs, and you need to go somewhere else because I'm not going to give you anything. And they don't believe that you're sick. They don't believe you have fibromyalgia. What a horrible, horrible way to live. But that's exactly what happens so many times with my fibromyalgia patients. They suffer at that kind of a level. Loneliness is a big part of it. Rejection is a big part of it. Feeling inadequate, obviously is a real big part of it. And then the suffering with the pain, the insomnia, the irritable bowel syndrome, which usually turns into constipation or diarrhea, most of the time diarrhea. You're flushing your nutrients through, so you're not feeling so good. And as far as nutritionally, you're deficient. That's why if you take vitamins and things extra, it helps because you get at least some of those into your system and it makes you feel better. So the day goes on, you get up, you don't feel well, you take your medication, you're a little bit stoned from the medication. Hopefully you're not taking too much, but you're not as loaded on the medication as most people think you are because the pain is eating up the medication. That's why when we start treating you and the receptor sites close and the pain starts disappearing, you need to get a hold of the doctor, put you on that medication so they can taper you off as the pain is going away and the symptoms are going away, not only with the medication, but also with the anti-anxiety and the sleeping pills also. It typically takes about 5 weeks of treatment before the sympathetic nervous system turns off. When that happens, so many of my patients come in and they say, doctor, is something wrong with me? And I go, why? And they go, because I'm so tired. And so my first question is, how are you sleeping? How'd you sleep last night? And they go, I slept like 14 hours last night. It's because I'm so tired. And I said, no, it's because the sympathetic nervous system turned off. I said, give yourself about a week and you'll catch up on that sleep deprivation. You'll feel like a new person. 6 weeks comes along, they're in the office taking other patients shopping, they're looking after them. Now they become the mothers in my office helping other people. And that is where the break comes in and the sympathetic turns off. You turn into a new person once you've got energy and you're sleeping again. By this time, usually the pain is much, much better, and we're working more towards stabilization of what we've done than we have of correction. By this time, I've got the patients walking. Before my patients leave, they are typically walking 3 or 4 miles a day, and they are 90 to 100% symptom free. Now, the way we determine this is we do a test when you first come in to see if your symptoms will remit. So if they get significantly better and it's sufficient enough to begin treatment, we'll begin treatment. If you don't respond to our test, we probably won't treat you and refer you to someone we think you can help you, because it's not fibromyalgia typically if you don't respond to our test. So our test usually will alleviate, for most people, 50 to 100% of the symptoms at the time of testing within 5 to 10 minutes. If this works, it tells us how to treat you, about how long it's going to take to treat you, and if you'll respond at all. And that's a real big deal for us. So I don't know if this helped. If you're married to a fibromyalgia patient, please be easy with them. They're going through so much. This is maybe the hardest time of their life and the worst thing they could ever suffer. And I know, I've been through it. I did it myself. I know exactly what it feels like. I'm 100% well right now. I'm working out almost every day, taking good care of myself, and got tons of energy, and would love to answer any of your questions. Please feel free to look here in my bio. You're welcome to call me anytime. I've got my phone number on other videos as well. Please feel free to look at those, and love to see you. Love to answer your questions. Have a nice day. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe and hit the like. It does help this get out to other people. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. My mission is to get this out to as many people as I can. So reach out to other fibromyalgia patients. Let them know that something's going on here. Have them look at our videos and see if they, if this answers their questions also. But this is my mission. Help me get it out. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.